On the final day of a major stage race in June 2011, a man stepped off a flight in France carrying a small padded envelope. A jiffy bag. He had been sent personally, all the way from the headquarters of British Cycling in Manchester, across a continent, to hand-deliver this one package to a team at the finish line of the race. The race had just been won by the team's biggest star, a British rider on the verge of becoming a national hero. Inside the package was a medicine, and what was actually in that medicine is a question that, to this day, nobody on Earth can answer with certainty. This is the story of the Jiffy Bag, and it is not a story about a motor, or a frozen bag of blood, or a positive test. It is stranger than all of those, because there is no smoking gun. There is only a package, two completely different explanations of what it contained, and a wall of silence where the truth should be. The team at the center of it had built its entire identity on being clean. They arrived in the sport promising a new way of doing things, obsessive attention to tiny details, marginal gains, and zero tolerance for doping. They were going to win the Tour de France with a British rider, fairly, and prove the sport could be honest again. For a while, the world believed them. Their star won that tour the very next year and was celebrated as one of the good guys, living proof the dark days were over. So when a question mark appeared over a mysterious package delivered to that same rider, it was not just embarrassing. It threatened the entire story the sport was telling about itself. So, what was in the bag? The team's doctor gave a clear answer. He said it contained a legal decongestant, a common medicine used to clear the airways, nothing remotely against the rules. Case closed, in their telling. A sick rider, a routine treatment, a courier sent because the medicine happened to be back at headquarters. But then came the other claim. Allegations surfaced that the package had actually contained a powerful corticosteroid, a drug that is banned in competition without special medical permission. If that were true, and if it had been given to the rider after the race, it would be one of the most serious accusations in modern cycling. The same rider, it later emerged, had been granted special medical exemptions to use that exact banned steroid before some of his biggest races, a fact the public only learned years later when hackers leaked confidential medical files. Suddenly, the innocent decongestant story had a much darker shadow standing behind it. If you believe a team that hides behind missing paperwork should be treated exactly like the cheats they claim to be better than, hit subscribe. This channel refuses to let these stories quietly disappear. Stay with me, because the investigation is where it falls apart completely. So an investigation began. The National Anti-Doping Agency took the case on, and they took it seriously. It ran for around 14 months. They interviewed dozens of people, more than 30 in total, including the men at the very top of the team. They followed every lead they could find. And after all of that, they came to a conclusion that satisfied absolutely no one. They could not confirm what was in the package, and they could not refute it either. So no charges were brought. Not because the team was cleared, but because the truth was unreachable. Why was it unreachable? Because the records that should have settled it did not exist. The medical paperwork that would have shown exactly what was ordered, what was sent, and what was given to the rider was incomplete or missing. The team doctor, the one man who could have ended the whole thing by producing his notes, said the laptop holding his medical records had been stolen while he was on holiday abroad. The single document that could have proven the package was harmless was simply gone. And so a 14-month investigation, with the full weight of the authorities behind it, collapsed into a shrug. It was not for lack of effort. Investigators interviewed more than 30 people across those 14 months. One witness recalled a senior coach telling him only that the rider had been sorted, that whatever was wrong had been taken care of, without ever spelling out what that meant. The courier who carried the envelope across the continent said he had no idea what was inside it. The doctor who ordered it could not produce the notes to back up his account. Everyone held a fragment of the story, and somehow, passing between all of them, the single fact that actually mattered had vanished. The anti-doping body even handed parts of what it found to the medical authorities to examine the conduct of the staff involved. Still no answer about the package itself. It went further than the anti-doping agency. A committee of the British Parliament held its own inquiry into the affair, summoning the team's bosses to answer questions under the glare of the cameras. They were critical. They were unconvinced. But they too could not produce the one thing that mattered: proof of what was inside the bag. Everyone involved has always denied any wrongdoing. The writer himself has furiously rejected the whole thing, calling it a malicious campaign designed to destroy him. And he may be completely right. That is the maddening center of this entire story. It is entirely possible that the package really did contain nothing more than a legal decongestant, and that an innocent man has spent over a decade defending himself against a ghost. But it is also possible that it didn't. And the reason this case eats away at people is that the not knowing is itself the scandal. Because how does a professional team, an organization obsessed with documenting every gram and every watt, manage to lose the records of what it injected into its own tour-winning rider? How does the one piece of evidence that could prove your innocence vanish on a stolen laptop? To a fan base that already believes the sport protects its stars, that does not read like bad luck. It reads like a cover-up. It reads like the records went missing for exactly the reason records go missing. This is the difference between the Jiffy Bag and the old scandals. With Lance Armstrong, the proof came in the end, a tower of testimony and evidence, and the truth was finally undeniable. With the Jiffy Bag, there is no tower. There is a padded envelope, 2 stories, a missing laptop, and a question the sport has decided it would rather not answer. And in a way that is more corrosive than a confession, because a confession at least ends the story. This one never ends. The team that promised to be clean became the team that could not prove what it put in a package. And the writer who was supposed to be the hero of the clean era became a man defending an envelope nobody can identify. So, what do you believe was really in that bag? A harmless cold medicine, or something the sport went out of its way to lose the receipts for? If you want the next mystery cycling refuses to solve, subscribe. We chase these envelopes all the way to the truth, even when the people inside the sport would rather we didn't.